There's a moment in every fight, like when fighters lock eyes for the first time, there's a moment and both guys know who's going to win. 9 times out of 10. They know between them, each other, who's supposed to win.
Yeah. So you know what's cool, man? Not having a fight anymore for a living. It's been like 5 years. It'll be actually, yeah, it's been 5 years since I've been in the ring professionally. And, you know, I still go and work out and train, but now it is just for fun.
Why'd you retire?
Why'd I retire? Because boxing sucks. That's but you know, in general, you know, boxing is just a lifestyle that gave me a lot. Changed my life in many ways that are largely intangible. Like, I'm not walking around with any boxing money. That was well spent, the little bit that was made. But I quit the sport for a few reasons, man. Like, for starters, there is no money in fighting. A lot more money in writing. A lot of money and communicating on social media. I've kind of embraced this idea of, I don't like to consider myself an influencer, but in terms of what we think of when one says an influencer and what they do, I'm not arrogant enough to try and create an entirely
I like that
new
word has been tainted.
Yeah, it really has, man, because now I don't want guys
You know what influencer is? Influencer is the new I'm spiritual.
Or the new I'm an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
You ain't done nothing. You're just not working. The difference is I make a decent amount, I guess, with what I do and how I help people and what I write about and all. But yeah, fighting's a hard. I always tell people fighting is a hard way to make a harder living.
So actually give a background about your boxing history.
Yeah, so I fought, you know, I did the amateur thing. When I decided I was going to fight, I did the amateur thing. A lot of guys decide they don't want to do the amateur thing.
What age you start boxing?
22. Ancient.
So that's pretty late for
anything, let alone somebody who's going to do it the right way, which is not just show up. Because a lot of people don't know this, right? You can just decide you're going to be a pro, right? You can just wake up one day and be like, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go get punched in the face.
Just so you know, you right now listening can decide to go become a professional fighter, sign a piece of paper, and be allowed to compete.
Yep.
It's not like the NBA. It's not like the NFL.
Ain't no draft. And somebody's going to give you, now they're not going to give you a lot of money. They're going to give you
you get like
$200.
Yeah.
$200 to show up and be somebody's punching bag.
I want to clarify before we even start for the listeners, because not everyone understands boxing. So we have amateur boxing and we have professional boxing.
Yeah.
On the amateur boxing side, you don't get paid, but you get to compete in the Olympics.
Well, you don't normally get paid.
You don't, I mean, you're not supposed to, you don't get paid for fighting.
Yeah, there you go.
You can get endorsements. You can be a writer. You can do whatever you want.
Because I think you and I both, maybe me a little more, I had a very profitable amateur career. And in a way that just wasn't ever going to happen. You know, this is how we met initially. There was the program All American Heavyweights out there in Los Angeles, and they were taking former Division I athletes and trying to turn them into boxers. Now, I'm not a former Division I athlete. I just beat the guy that they put a lot of energy and money into when we were amateurs. It was Dominic Brazil. Now, you know, he killed me now. Nothing, not even close, you know, give him much respect where respect is due. But
heavyweight, All American Heavyweight Factory in LA.
Yeah.
You were boxing there. This was like
2011. I know exactly when it was,
So 2011, you're boxing there. So what happens?
What happens is, you mean with the program or with me?
With you.
Oh, I mean, I had a great time in the program. I think I was out there for like 18 months. I ended up...
Describe the program, though.
The program, we wake up, we go do a morning workout, and then we go spar or train or practice for it was like 4 hours during the day, and then get lunch, and then there was like stuff in the afternoon.
It was like a boxing boot camp of heavyweights.
It was like a job. right?
D1 athletes, and there's a chef. There were we had maids come in the house, and they had all these condos, and this dude was just funneling money into this program.
Had fundraisers, and it was great. Like, I was getting paid. I'm trying to remember. I feel like I was making about $4,000 a month, and all of my rent and utilities were covered, so it was all pocketed.
So how many months does this last?
About 18 months.
Oh, so you're about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So the whole program, their idea was they wanted to get the Olympic super heavyweight boxer.
And to be fair, they accomplished it with the one Dominic Brazil. He made it, but then they messed that up.
So, but the entire program was built around being the number one super heavyweight.
Yeah.
I was actually the number one super heavyweight.
Yeah, and that's a messed up story. You know what happened as far the speculation.
The entire program's goal, they were trying to make heavyweights to beat me.
Yeah, well, okay, they had to beat you to accomplish their goal. To say they made it to beat you is kind of
when I got in my mind, being the number one super heavyweight guy, and I see that they're literally building a program funneling $25 million a year to beat me, who has no budget.
Well, yeah, because what they failed to realize is that it was now it's not this way so much anymore. They changed the system. What I'm going to talk about, there used to be the point system where you could win an amateur fight with it was like I remember one fight I won a fight 47-11 or something, right? Because it was counted touches. Now they use a 10-point must system, which is just as subjective, but a different kind of subjective, But they didn't realize that you were winning the system. And you say this all the time, so it's no disrespect.
No, not at all. I understand the scoring system. If I hit you 9 times and you hit me 3 times, I win.
Yeah.
So my strategy in every fight is the first round, I'm going to do a lot of moving because it's a super heavyweight. So he thinks he's going to knock me out. He's not doing any cardio. I'm moving around a lot. He's getting tired. The first round score is usually very low or 0-0.
Yeah.
Second round, I move around a lot for the first 30 seconds because he's got a little more energy, but now he's really tired. And now I try to score 2 or 3 points. Scores 3-0 now, right? Yeah. Now he's desperate and angry. He starts throwing bombs to try to hurt me. Now he's open for more punches. Points. Now I'm up 6 or 7 points.
Yeah.
And then I literally just run around until the ref tells me to stop running.
And that wins, except when it doesn't. You talk about this too. Who was the one amateur fighter that didn't play that game with you?
Michael Hunter. I got into a lot of people, some people I had to beat, just bully them and beat them. But there's a lot of people I could just beat mentally. And Michael Hunter was not taking any of my mental, he was the one person who just none of that
didn't matter.
Worked on him. That dude was
which is and that's that's why he's a good fighter, man. A really, a great fighter. Because when you fight, people think about what they can see. I can see you being in shape. I can see you throwing punches. I can see a guy getting knocked out. All of those things are important, and they actually are ultimately what decides the scoring outcome of the fight. But the battle, the process, what's taking place, that's all up here. That's all in your head. And if you can win that battle, which you made yourself an expert at, you don't have to be in great shape. You don't have to be a good fighter. I think that the moment I get touched by you, I'm going down. If I think I can't touch you, I'm going to use up all this energy. You're just going to make me look stupid. What have I done effectively, right? Or what have you done? Well, you've eliminated my propensity to attack because I'm going to be worried about being open. I'm going to be worried about giving up energy. I'm going to be desperate. I'm not going to fight my best fight. That is the essence of winning battle. What does Sun Tzu say? Something about, the fight is won beforehand. You should win the fight before you end up in the fight, kind of deal. And that is more or less what you were doing.
Yeah, I would play all types of mind games just because the way I would look at it is if I could just plant a seed of doubt in your mind, that I'm going to win or that you're not invincible. I just want to remind you. So a perfect example is fought in the Olympic trials in Reno in 2016. I reached out because we're in a casino, a Silver Star Casino.
Some
whatever.
casino. And
In the casino, connected to it was the Laugh Factory Comedy Club. So I reached out to them and said, hey, the Olympic trials are going to be during this time. I would like to perform the week of the Olympic trials. And I did that because I don't know who I was fighting. I didn't know who was going to be there. I booked that gig because I knew if I did that, I would automatically win.
Now, why is that? You got to explain that to me.
Because think about who I'm fighting. Let's say Tom, right? Tom knows. Tom knows, because I'm trying to think of a boxer, and I'm not trying to call out a boxer.
Nah, I knew what you were trying to do. You were trying to come up with a name.
Yeah, I was trying to think, who could I use but not be disrespectful, but because all of them are still fighting.
Yeah.
D. Ray Crane's not fighting, but let's not use him. Let's talk about Tom, right? Tom knows he's fighting in the Olympic trials. This is going to be the biggest fight of his life. He's abstaining from sex. He's skipping junk food. He is sacrificing his life. He's not even spending time with his kids. This is the biggest moment of his life. And then he gets to the draw and he pulls a guy named Awesome. And then he gets to, like, now he's looking up videos. He gets to the hotel and my picture's everywhere in the advertisement for the comedy show coming up. And he's thinking, I'm doing all of this sacrificing and I'm making this into a big moment. And he doesn't even look like he cares. Cam must know something that I don't know. Cam must know he's going to win.
At the very least, he must believe he is so much better than me that what are we doing? And that's got to look. I mean, you're supposed to stay focused on what's going on and everything like that. But I would imagine if we have a contest or so, and I find out, yeah, maybe like if I found out my guy was in fact, I think you have a story like this. If I find out the guy I'm supposed to fight was out at the bar till 4 a.m., I'm going to, so first, the way I'm going to think, I'm going to crush this guy. And then we come out in the first round and this guy is not being crushed, I'm probably going to feel a certain way. I'm going to start questioning me. Because if I know for an undeniable fact that you were like sloshed and they had to carry you home and you come out moving around me, making me mess, I'm gonna be like, yo, this is crazy. What did I like? We're not even here in the same world, man. I thought he was a drunk. I thought he was a hobo. And now I got to deal with this. That would mess with
I purposely made people think. People say, oh, Cam didn't like running. I loved running. I love listening to music and running. But
you still do it now. You run more than me, and I like running.
Yeah. But I never let anyone think I worked hard. I made everyone think I don't care about it because most people, they like perfect. Leroy Davila. Love that dude. He was the 108 pounder on the team. He would stay up till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning reading his Bible. And no one on the team coach, no one had a problem with that. But if I wanted to go out to the comedy club and come back at maybe midnight or 1 o'clock, that's an issue. Like different people, we relax before a fight in different ways. My way was just so different. And I think that's why I could be so successful on a domestic level. But when I would fight internationally, I would have to be coached. And I coach myself.
Now tell me that, because that's something we have talked about. I don't want to say like in depth, but there are enough conversations to where I know that like that is an interesting observation. And anyone who could like look up your career, they would see that difference. They'd be like, okay, this guy's killing the Americans, killing domestically, internationally. Not the same level of dominance. Now part of that can be attributed to the idea of, the best from each country had to go through a similar path that you had to go through to be the best for America. So you're fighting harder competition. But do you think there's anything else to that? Is there something in the water? Are they doing something different over there? Maybe countries, it's like North Korea, where they're going to execute your family if you don't win, that kind of deal. Like, what's up?
I would say so. And just to better explain that, I would coach myself. Like no one would call me to make sure I went running. No one would. Of course, when I would drive around in my Prius and fight. If I knew like someone needed a heavyweight in Iowa, I would just hop in my Prius, drive to Iowa, get a hotel, fight, get a random person to work my corner. When I started working with my coach, John Brown, he asked me, he was like, what do you need to win? And I was working at Waffle House. I had just like quit my job at Waffle House. He started coaching me and I was like, oh, I just need to get to the fights. He's like, because I couldn't afford to get to nationals because you need to get a hotel. You need to get the flight. You need food. I couldn't afford it. I was like 18, 19. And he's like, what else do you need to win? I was like, all I need is to get to the fight. And he would pay for me to like get a hotel, fly out there. I would fly to nationals, register myself. I would go weigh myself, check into weigh-ins in the morning. I would warm myself up. I would wrap my own hands and I would get a random coach to work my corner. I would win Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, John Brown would fly in, work my corner Saturday night. We take a picture together. He asks me what I need. I say nothing. Or anything I need, he gives me. And then I go about my business fighting. So I call my coach in the respect that I couldn't have had my career without him.
Yeah.
But coaching wise, I learned stuff from different coaches everywhere I went, but I essentially coach myself.
Which is like, you know, in the boxing world, it doesn't normally work out that way. I don't want people to hear this and be like, you know what, that's the secret. If I want to win, if I want to win a bunch of national championships and Golden Gloves, I got to get rid of this coach. Now, it doesn't normally work out this way. Clearly, there is something that we like to call talent that apparently exists. That you have a lot of now, whether that be talent for fighting or understanding the system and playing to it, there's a competitive advantage you have or had.
I would say it's more on skill as well because I know the old scoring system and I mastered that. Yeah. But then they changed to the 10-point must, and I was still winning nationals every year.
Well, because it's still the same general idea. It's just what are we counting now? Yeah. Or rather, what are we counting on paper? But still, like, think about it. To win a fight underneath that old point system, your touches were counted. What's counted in a 10-point must? Well, in theory, you know, damage, ring control. Well, damage and ring control are two big things that are counted in the 10-point must system. And if you're getting more touches, you're probably going to be causing more damage and controlling the pace of the fight.
Oh, I consciously made the decision to start like sitting down and start throwing heavier punches. Of course, still moving around just as much. But I was like, okay, now I have to stop every so often and let them know I'm there. Before I didn't have to do that. Before it was more of a dance.
Yeah.
But now it's like every so often like, and I would make the noises so the judges knew I was giving effort because I realized what I do looks effortless. And I don't say that to make myself sound cool. It looks like I don't care. And it looks like I'm not landing effective shots.
Yeah.
So,
and that's actually a really good point because any of the next part, I mean, I'll do my best to explain it, but boxing aficionados will understand this, and this is an important difference. So in the 10-point must system in the pros, I was talking about how damage is one of those things they consider. All right. And it's pretty easy to see when you're damaged in a professional fight. Your shirt's off, your eyes swell up. Yeah. There's usually some blood, whatever, right? I can see how you've been hurt. I don't have to know the effort you put into your punch if it opens up a cut or it swells someone's eye. It's not like that in the amateurs where there's a headgear and the gloves are softer. So short of me land,
we switched to no headgears.
Well, but that's for the highest fights.
In 2013,
they did the whole thing away.
States, regionals,
right? I do remember when that happened. Okay,
and that was risky because, first of all, because I don't get hit, and I don't endorse anything I do for anyone else. PSA, don't do what I'm doing.
Right.
But if I didn't get hit much, that's why I fought so much.
Well, yeah, which is
so I can say it with by that. I did like when we took the headgears off for vanity reasons. The pictures, they look great. Like imagine all of your pictures, your whole career having a headgear. And then you start to get pictures without
right, because you didn't go pro, but we're going to get to that. All right.
I was just happy about the pictures but then in the first round of the first day of the 2016 Olympic trials without headgear, Adrian Taylor and I clash heads. My eye split open.
Adrian Taylor, that's it, man. Where's he from? He's from Texas?
Yeah, Dallas, Texas.
I think I fought him. It's one of the few pictures I have as an amateur. I'll show you a picture later and see if that's what I'm thinking of. Because you said that name before, and I was like, that sounds right. I'm pretty sure that's the guy. Yeah, guy hits good.
That dude works.
Yeah.
Bro, that dude could do rounds.
They actually, if it's who I'm thinking of, they brought him in to fight me at All-American Heavyweights as an amateur. They flew him in.
Oh, yeah.
So they weren't just flying in scrubs. So it was probably...
Bro, they flew me in so much. It was like every other weekend I was flying into the All-American Heavyweight program because they're trying to figure a way to beat me. And I was like, you would think that if someone was like trying to find a way to beat me, I would keep my distance from them. But I was so confident that no one they could ever do could beat me. I would legit fly over there without a coach, party, hang out, fight the next day, party, and then fly back.
And for those who think this might be an exaggeration, I mean, we were roommates out there in LA for a few months. I don't remember exactly how long, but the first time we came out, they put you with me, and I think we went to the Chili's across the street and had some drinks. And I remember thinking, I was like, man, don't you got to fight like coming up? That's why you out here. And he's like, it's all good, man. It's having a drink. It's a good time, but that system, that life of being an amateur, you're training like this, you're doing all this work, you don't go pro. And to me that's weird because my thought process when I fought was I'm gonna take this as far as I can go, and then I'm like pretty much when I can't go any further, I feel like I can't go any further, that's when it'll be it. I had my, we talked about the exit conditions for leaving the game. When do you know you're gonna get out, right? What's your condition for leaving? And I had that, and then when it came, I left and all that. But you didn't go pro. I was like trying to go pro as soon as possible. Why didn't you go pro? And maybe you have to explain the difference and all, but I'm curious, man.
Yeah, I get this question a lot. Like, why didn't I go pro? You don't have to. So when I first got involved in boxing, I think everyone, before you get involved, you should ask yourself two questions. One, what do I want out of this sport? And two, what is it going to have to take for me to leave? Those are two things you should be very clear about. When I got into boxing, I knew when you first time I won nationals, you have to fill out the sheet, like your height, your weight, where you're from. And it was like one of the questions, what is your goal? What is your greatest goal in the ring? And most people's answer is the Olympics and heavyweight title. And mine was to get a TV show. Like, and this is before like social media influencers were a thing. Like I just wanted to not have a job. So I realized after I won nationals, I was like, oh, this is something that it's a point system I figured out. If I won once, I'm sure I can win it again. And I was like, I'm just going to make myself comfortable here. I made myself captain of the team. It was a shoe. I've mentally made myself a shoe-in as a win at every tournament I went to. And that's because I fought in literally everything.
Well, yeah. But what was the glory here? Well, why not keep going?
The reason why is I just really like to travel. That's the whole... And
you didn't think you traveled as a pro?
I couldn't. No. Because
I'm curious, because now I know the answer, or at least I have an idea what the answer is, but I'm curious as to how you think. You don't think you would have traveled that much as a pro? Do you think that it kept you domestic?
Yeah, you don't have.
Absolutely. And you're right, by the way. I just want
Yeah. I got to travel to 30 countries and I got to experience all these different cultures and I got to do all these cool things and represent the USA. How freaking cool is that? Like,
and when you were telling me this, I actually, because I didn't know like how you traveled, right? I figured you went, you fought, you came home. You were telling me you were in Italy for a month. Now, granted, it was Italy like the way the Italians do it, which is fine.
yeah.
But I think when a lot of people think of travel, they think about going and doing the hotel thing and seeing the sights. But you were saying, you're going out shopping with the boxers and living in their same quarters. So you get a real experience and a real perspective that most people will never get. I mean, it's impossible for them to get.
Yeah. I've still to this day been to all these countries. I've never been to a resort. So like when we go to these countries, you live the way the boxers live. So if you go to a training camp for a month.
Do you live in a hotel?
Sometimes you get a hotel.
Okay.
Sometimes you get a hotel.
Because a resort's not a common thing when you go to another country. But a hotel, I figure you stay in a hotel.
Yeah, sometimes we'll stay in but it's never in the touristy place. There aren't attractions.
Now that's different.
There are grocery stores. There are like parks where you play soccer for entertainment because there's nothing in walking distance. But yeah, it was such a cool thing to have that like real life experience. Granted, I want to go back to some of these places and like
and have you want to get the other experience,
But it was so cool to be able to like see these people, and
you wouldn't get that as a pro.
I wouldn't get that as a pro, and I wouldn't get that as a normal person.
Yeah,
I can only get that experience, and I didn't get the college experience.
I'll take it a step further for you. You don't get that experience if you're not as good as you were.
Yeah.
Like you ended up in a confluence of really unique circumstances and events because most fighters don't get that experience. Most humans don't get that experience. It's such a thing, and the only way you keep getting that is staying amateur. So I get that. Like
and I was a big fish.
That's true.
And like I would show up to nationals we knew I was going to win. And like, I'm sorry, I'll take that back. Now that I'm actually looking at things differently, I thought I was going to win.
No, everyone there thinks they're going to beat you, right? Otherwise, why are they there?
Yeah, of course. In my mind, and that's how strong I believe like manifesting things are. In my mind, I show up, I'm just like, I know I'm going to win. And that served me. And of course, I knew I had to work. I knew I had to bust my ass to do it. But I knew if I did everything I'm supposed to do,
But you had there was an alignment. What that I think a lot of fighters don't necessarily have, which is, and I know I struggle with this at all levels. It's you put the work in and the training in. So check. You think you're going to win. That's the wrong verb. You want to know and believe you're going to win. Like in your mind, like you should be like, yo, that's not right. I didn't hear that correctly. You mean I lost? And you could be laying on your back.
I legit have cried after losing out of confusion.
Right. Because you're like, how did this happen?
Out of shock. How am I? Because I wouldn't do it if I thought I was going to. And there's a moment in every fight, like when fighters lock eyes for the first time, there's a moment and both guys know who's going to win. 9 times out of 10. They know between each other who's supposed to win.
Yeah.
That 10th time, that's when amazing fights happen. When both guys think they're supposed to win. But for the most part, And I had the mindset of, I know. And my girlfriend called it, she says I do this whole black magic thing where I plant seeds for what I want you to expect the future to be. So one of the things I would do in a boxing match, like one of my favorite moves to do is like when a guy would throw a jab, I'm a southpaw. So when a guy would throw a jab.
Tell them what a southpaw is. A lot of people don't know. He's left-handed.
I'm left-handed. So
most people are right-handed.
Yeah, so. Most people are right-handed, but southpaws, which are annoying people, I even hate them. It's an annoying fight. But when I'm in my southpaw stance, if a guy throws a jab, I like to slip it. First thing I do is slip it, throw an uppercut, pop. He throws a jab again, slip it, throw uppercut, pop. And it's my favorite punch. It's what I work on the most. I'm going to land it. Yeah. Confident in it. The third time, slip it. He's expecting me to hit him. I don't. I just look at him. Then I smile.
And those are the mental games. That's fighting. That's the science.
Now he knows at that moment, if he throws that jab again, he's going to get hit with an uppercut. Now he's a one-handed fighter. It's not hard to beat a one-handed fighter. When I get to do that mentally with his right hand, you ever watch a boxing match and you're like, why isn't that guy throwing any punches?
Exactly. And if you've never fought, you don't understand it. You know exactly why he's not throwing punches. And especially if you've been watching and seeing the little touches that he's been absorbing every time a slip happens. That's my favorite part. The thing I really get the most out of now is I can watch a fight. I know Cam takes great pride in the fact that he doesn't really watch boxing.
Unless my friends are fighting, then I'll pay the $7.99.
Yeah, right. As do I. But a lot of times I watch a fight just because I like watching fights. I can't watch sports I didn't play, right? And like I've tried. I watched the season of, and to call it a season isn't even correct. I watched a run of the NCAA Final Four because I had a client who I was doing coaching, like mindset coaching, who was ended up in the Final Four as a player in the NCAA basketball tournament. But other than that, like I watch football because I played football, and I watch boxing because I boxed. I will occasionally watch an MMA fight because I had 2 cage fights. But the appreciation you get from that is you understand when something is changing, you're like, yeah, or you can call with a fair amount of accuracy, or at least you know where the damage is going to be biggest based on what the guys are doing. And it's just much more enjoyable and much more fun when you know what you're looking at.
But here's the thing, though. The people in the crowd, and people who look at boxing, and the problem with the judges sometimes as well, is because I know what I'm doing doesn't look like much. And sometimes like those quick uppercuts or the things I do, the crowd is like, knock him out, knock him out. I'm like, that's barbaric compared to the technician shit that I'm doing.
Not only is it barbaric, but it's not as effective. People don't realize, knock someone out, right? I mean, it happens, obviously. But a lot of times, especially as you get higher and higher up in the ability of your opponent, those are setups. That is not the result of a one slip and a crack. Very rarely, especially at the lighter weight classes. And it's not like you were in a lighter weight class. It's just as an example to give that.
Oh, also, I'm not going to pretend like I had power to knock anyone out. And I know I didn't have the power to knock someone out. And also, the longer you stand in front of someone to knock them out, the more of a chance you're going to get hit. I don't care about knocking people out. My thing was, I just don't.
You want to win.
I just want to. I'm here to win.
Move and hit, not get hit. That's the game plan.
No. My thing was not get hit, then hit.
Well, okay, not get hit
because it's always hit and not get hit. I placed the priority on the other side. That was the secret.
And this is a bit of a strategic lesson here that I hope is not lost. In general, and I know this from chess and from boxing, and you can observe it in other sports as well. If you cannot be hit or damage cannot be caused to you or your position, you can't lose by definition of losing, right? You can't be stopped. Your position can't be penetrated. You can't be beaten because you're not sustaining damage. So if you have to pick somehow, and I think in most things that they're intertwined anyhow, but if you have to isolate one to focus on, being a strong defender is more valuable. And defense is also, I'm putting in that category of evasiveness as well, moving out of the way of a shot, defending a shot. And you're living proof of that. You guys can go look up his fights on YouTube. This is not as an exaggeration.
It looks a little awkward or weird because I legit taught myself how to box. If I saw someone hitting the heavy bag, I remember when I first boxing I was first in the boxing gym, I saw a dude hitting the heavy bag, and he was hitting it kind of low, like he was fighting a child. Yeah. And I was like, oh, it's just because it's easier to do it, but that's not right. So I developed the habit of, for me to hit the heavy bag, I've had to shadow box already. Yeah. I walk up to the bag and I press my forehead on it. that is the line where I'm supposed to punch. And I've always done that because I know it's the right thing to do. If I ever feel like not doing it, I just don't hit the heavy bag.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys who will just, and there's a lot of boxers who will just develop these bad habits by continuously doing bad work, doing a bad form
because it's easier.
And it's easier.
One of the best things that happened to me is I got a lesson in how to practice my first year with my professional coach, Tom Yankello. And then we just kept developing that to where now like little things that look like it's a lot of work. I'm like, that's just the standard workout. Like he taught, for example, you always hit the heavy bag the way you're going to fight. That's not like, and we pretty much said the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. I think we have a different idea of how you're going to fight, but the idea holds. This is not an object for you to just, tap. You need to attack this thing the way you're going to battle. Shadow boxing. Imagine there's an opponent doing things that's going to be difficult for you to deal with, and you're fighting that opponent. And that's how you go about shadowing. You could do, and we've had our arguments about this, but I more or less agree with your take. That doesn't mean I would endorse it for my training, but I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with this, which is like, well, why do you need to hit the speed bag, right? Why do you need to? I think you said something about jumping rope too, right? You don't need to do those two things. I don't necessarily endorse that for my training, but I see how you're getting there because it's just like.
And I say that as someone who loves jumping rope.
Right. I think, you know what? I love running, and I think the same thing about running. I don't think you get in shape. And there's actually a bit of there's
okay. I want to get this out. What it takes to get in shape. I think there's a lot of hoorah that goes around. Like everyone is selling a product and we're adding a bunch of things to training that we don't need to. I have always been very basic. Like I don't need the heart monitor. I need all of this, right? I think coaches are adding a lot of things to make their job seem a little.
Well, yeah, if you make it look like I say the same thing about teachers when I used to tutor kids in math and physics, and I would tell them, you got to understand, this is not that complicated. They need you to believe it's complicated because if you believe it's complicated, they've got you hooked. They've got you dependent on the system, even if they don't know that's what they're trying to do. If you all of a sudden woke up and realize, hold up, it is not that hard to learn, and I don't need to spend 16 weeks, 8 weeks working on this and all this homework. Well, what are they going to do? And that's the same thing with the coaches. You're spot on.
But I will say that some guys aren't as mentally disciplined.
And that's what they need. They need a coach
as a babysitter.
But in terms of like getting in shape, it's always been my thought. And I like running, so I've never argued about it because why would I argue about it? Plus, I'm not the guy that's going to argue with a coach. That I'm reserved that for guys. And
also I believe in having coaches. I am a rare case,
right?
Like
so, which is good to recognize and say. But you don't. But running 3 miles, running 2 miles a day, how's that help you? That does not translate to being able to move around the ring. For 6 to 8 rounds. Do you think so?
I will say the only thing that I did training, and this is when I say I coach myself, I would rollerblade for cardio. I'd rollerblade or I would run. Those are the two things I do. And I would spar. I didn't hit the bag. I didn't jump rope. I didn't hit the speed bag. Didn't hit the agility bag. All I would do was spar. My logic is I'm not getting hit, so I don't have the risk of any damage. And anything that happens in a fight, I'm going to be so comfortable with it. It's going to be an automatic reflex.
Right.
So the reason why I was so successful in the ring is because I sparred all of the time. I didn't, and it got me in shape because if all you do is, I would get mad when I would go to spar someone and they only did 3 rounds. I'm like, this wasn't worth my shower.
Right. And there were a lot of good and bad things about All American Heavyweights, but one of the best things, and you probably didn't have this issue because of the way you approach training. I had this issue coming from where I came from. There wasn't enough sparring, which is why I spar guys now to try and help them out. But we sparred so much to the point where it was probably not good. But I improved. I went out there with 27 fights over 3 years and got, I think, 30 fights in 1 year plus the sparring. And that chunk of time implanted so many little patterns in my head that you can't learn them. You can't figure them out hitting the gloves. You got to be in there fighting and know what it feels like when a guy pulls his shoulders, when he steps off, little things you don't think about. You just got to know how it feels.
The reason why my favorite punch was that lead uppercut is because I have looked at so many. I know when a guy's going to throw a jab, not through his hands, through his shoulder muscles.
Yep.
I can see it through about his neck. And I know it's a jab, and it's counterintuitive, but I move in the direction of his neck. If it's going that's the direction the punch is coming from, but I beat it. And at that point, his elbow is over my shoulder.
Yep.
Now,
it's little things like that.
I got so comfortable because all I did was spar, and all I did was look for those signs. I would spar guys smaller than me. I was sparring guys 130. I don't care who it is. I'm just trying to be in the ring to learn movements. I don't suggest that for everyone because dudes are out there getting their brain smashed in. And I kind of believe like it's cool in your 20s, but you're going to hit 30 and you need a plan. And
there's a plan, and that's another conversation for sure. But like, that is a very enlightening look at the game, but the game, I don't call it a game. Nobody plays boxing, as they say.
You know what? People say that. I played boxing.
Yeah, well, you played, but you also, I'm gonna clap back. You also didn't go pro. So.
But we know I would have made some noise.
You would have had I think you would have personally.
That's a conversation.
It always made me sad that you didn't do it. But on that note, man, I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of peek into the boxing mind of Cam. Awesome. And before we close out, I've been meaning to look this up, and I've tried to look. I think I have tried to look this up. You probably know the answer. Where do you rank in terms of boxers, amateur, who get in terms of titles? I always talk about how decorated you are, and I can't think of anybody that's got 5 nationals or 4 golden gloves. Like,
so there's dudes who were boxing like the 50s who, but as of like recent years, I'm not saying I'm the best, but I've just won the most because I'm competing more than anyone else. I thought the best way to get better is through sparring and fighting. And all I did was spar and fight.
And so you just knew more. So that's cool. Anyhow, I bring that up to say, man, you got a rare look into the mind of someone who on paper, I'm pretty sure I would bet, it's hard to verify, but I would bet that you are the most decorated U.S. amateur boxer in history.
I've won more boxing matches than anybody else.
So which means nothing if you only fighting scrubs and smokers and shit. But if you are on the national stage at the U.S. Nationals, the Golden Glove, the Police Athletic League tournaments, the Olympic trials, I think you were fighting when there were still Eastern Western Conference trials, things like that. So those are big deals against the best people our country had to offer in the amateur ranks, and you had not just an impressive, the best record there. So this is not, a slouch insight into strategy. And maybe we'll call that episode this, man. It's a really, really cool insight into what makes somebody able to win. It's a very unconventional approach, I think, from what people were expecting. So on that note, if you enjoyed this episode of the Life After Fight podcast, we would appreciate if you like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you think about Cam's approach, what you think about boxing in general. Share this with people who fought. Some of them probably fought Cam, especially if they're over 200 pounds.
And in the comments, let me know if you think the speed bag is useless. Most people, some people would say it's useless, but thank you.